Hello, everyone. Santos Vargas, and I'm here with Jim Monnig, a 50-plus lawyer and a legal legend in family law circles. And a lot of people may not know this, but also a darn good boxer. I've had the pleasure of watching Jim both in the courtroom and in the boxing ring. I can tell you he's equally tough in both arenas. Jim, I have a couple of questions for you today.
First, let me thank you for the very nice words, Santos. I'm honored. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, thank you for being part of this, Jim. But part of my platform includes supporting seasoned lawyers. In other words, making sure that the state bar is providing tools and resources and support for the trailblazers who've done so much for the legal profession. And so, one of the questions I have for you, Jim, is do you have a perspective on what the state bar can be doing to further support our seasoned lawyers?
Well, it's a good question. I think that one thing that's been so important here in the last few years, kind of happened, is the Zoom process. Because, so many lawyers, as they get more years, have a hard time just getting around, um, just getting places. It's, old age is wonderful, but it still has got some drawbacks. So I think the Zoom and what can be done to encourage more use of Zoom, because there's so many things that can be done just as well by Zoom as in person. And finally, lawyers, they always say they never quit. They just fall over at their desk and die. But some of us, would maybe, of course, I'm only 81, just a kid, but we you got to face the fact eventually you got to have a succession plan. And one thing that the state bar does have is they have a program, the bar does, for succession, and it's a good program. And more of us, you might say, need to be aware of that, and there may be other things to be done. But anyway, those are just a few thoughts that come into my mind.
Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts, Jim. Throughout your career, you've done a lot to give back to the practice of law, whether that's by speaking at continuing education conferences, authoring or co-authoring papers on family law, mentoring, younger lawyers on family law practice. And so, one of the questions I have is, why do you feel it's important to give back to the practice of law?
Well, to me, now this is just me speaking personally, it's a great honor to be sought out, and see, I've always felt that what we do for a living, yeah, we got to make a living, but it's a profession, and I learned in law school that a professional is one that puts service and trying to be decent, at least on a par with just making a living, if not a little more so. And so, to me, you get to a certain point, if you can give back some of that knowledge that you've accumulated, just that, I mean, that day to day stuff, just how it works, how to get along with other lawyers, how to serve your clients better in difficult situations. Uh, to me, that's what I like. I like to try to give back, and those reasons. That's that's what comes to my mind, Santos.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Jim, because giving back is so important, for all practice areas, certainly. And I appreciate how much you've done to give back to the practice of law and family law circles. Uh, Following up on that, you've been practicing for 50 plus years now, Jim, and you've seen a lot during those 50 plus years. What advice would you have for younger family law lawyers who are kind of starting out on how they too can also succeed in family law?
I think that a lot of it has to do with the sort of an attitude. And if I were going to try to sum it up in one word, I think I would say try to adopt a respectful attitude toward others. We're in a very contentious situation in the adversarial system, but we as it's not, I didn't coin the phrase, but we all say we can disagree and disagree agreeably, and if you can adopt an attitude of respect to the fellow lawyer, I think that's it goes so far for younger lawyers.
Great advice, Jim.
Well, thank you.
Let me ask you this. How have you seen the practice of family law change during that course of time?
Well, when I first started, of course, it was, you either had two choices. You either tried a case or you sat down with a lawyer and worked it out. And I think in ways now, of course, we have the collaborative process. We have mediation. Those things did not exist in those days, and those things, in their place, can be really really great, and they can save our clients. They do save our clients a lot of angst, a lot of pain, a lot of money, and so that's what I've seen change more than anything. Is, I mean, we're still advocates. None of that's changed. That's the basis of who we are.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Let me ask you this. What's one thing that you think the state bar can do better?
Well, what I am kind of aware of is that the state bar has just myriad programs available to all of us lawyers, and what I think would be maybe do possibly a little better. I don't want to criticize state bar, but
Of course.
but if we knew lawyers more about what was available, I think we'd make more use of it, because there is so much CLE out there. There are so many support groups. Santos was just telling me about. We were talking about giving this little talk, and we talked about programs available for these older lawyers. He used a nice word like seasoned. Very very charming, but old guys, you know what I mean. But he was telling me there's so much available that if you knew it, you could use it. Well, I've heard it for years that our state bar provides the greatest CLE programs of maybe anywhere in the nation. It's incredible what's available to us, and we can use it. It makes our life easier.
Following up on that question, Jim, what's one thing that you think the state bar does really well?
Well, what the state bar does, I'm not sure if this is the answer, but here's what the state bar does. If we didn't have the state bar, we'd just be a bunch of people, unconnected, no guidance, no cohesiveness, no group. There's I mean, I very much believe, and what else it does is it allows us to regulate ourselves. I'm not sure if that's part of what you asked me or not, but the state bar regulates us, but we regulate ourselves through the state bar. So to me, that entity that enables us to be a group instead of just a bunch of people floating around and trying to figure out what to do, it's so important.
Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for sharing your thoughts and your ideas with us. I really appreciate the time and look forward to visiting with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Really appreciate the kind words.
My pleasure.